Okay, good evening, everyone. We're here for the Board of Adjustment meeting to deal with a request for a variance. If we can go ahead and stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States. You can just go around for the roll call, starting with you, Rick.
I'm here.
Can you just say your name?
Rick Dreyer.
Dave Vogt.
Julie Johnson.
Kathy Cherican.
Me too. Townsend, town solicitor.
Bill Zolper, town manager.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second?
Motion to adopt.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion's carried unopposed. So I don't have any updates or announcements unless, Fred, you have anything,
I
or
do not.
Bill, you have anything?
I do not.
Okay, so we'll move on. We'll go ahead and open our public hearing. We have the presentation from our Mr. Glenn.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good evening, everybody. My name is Glenn Mandalis. I am an attorney with Baird Mandalis, Brockstead, and Federico and Cardia. We have offices most close to Dewey Beach in Lewis, Delaware on Savannah Road, 1415 Savannah Road. I represent all of the 6 unit owners in Building D in the C Strand community. And we have with us tonight Claudia and Senator Cueto. Do I say that right? Fair enough, good. All right, so Senator Carney was just sworn in for a second term yesterday? State Senator Tuesday. Perfect. We also have Henry and Leanne Posca, who are also owners of Unit 35 in Unit D. We're before you this evening seeking a variance that would facilitate a half-story addition to Building D in the C Strand community. As you all know, many times I appear before you, we have multiple variances I'm asking for, and the applications get very sophisticated. I'm happy to say to you tonight, we've got a request simply for a setback variance. So hopefully this one's a little bit easier to move through. I'll explain more about our variance request later, but I wanted you to get a chance first to hear from Claudia, who has a real relationship with the property dating back for a while. So Claudia, if you mind coming to the podium. Thanks. Or do you swear?
We do swear in the witnesses just in case a record has to be made. So name and address from you at this point.
Claudia Cueto. I live in Pennsylvania, 539 Westminster Avenue, Swarthmore. And we have a property here at 32 C Strand.
And Ms. Cueto, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I solemnly affirm.
Very good. You may proceed.
Well, thank you I know it was a little hard to get you all together, so thank you, especially so close after the holidays. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this property. We have been coming here. This is my mom and the 5 of us. We rented here first, and in the 70s, my parents bought where we are now, 32 C Strand. We are the third owners. They were built in the 60s. We bought in the 70s. And we have a long, very happy memories of this place. My mom passed away a year and a half ago, and she left this to me and my brothers and sisters. And at this point, my brothers and sisters, you see there, between us, we have 16 children. And we share this place, and this additional space, it will be very helpful to us as well, because we like to share it together. Could you move to the next? I'm also an architect, and I've been working with this group as an architect and designer. We did hire Civil to do a site plan for us, and this is the site plan, which I think will be useful later with Glenn. You can see where the property lines are, for NR. These are, we call them townhouses. So it would be, Glenn will get into this more, but it would be, of course, a hardship for us to try to meet a 8-foot setback when these properties are 16 feet wide. So could you go to the next slide? So anyway, these are This is the unit that we're talking about. This is the D unit of the, we have A, B, C, and D unit. Of the 4 units, our unit is actually closest to the original buildings that were built in the late 1960s. So the other units, if you continue, this is unit A and B that are along the water. At one point, because of, especially A, there was a storm, it took the roof off. They decided to replace it. They were all flat roofs. So they decided to replace it with a pitched roof, and the B unit also followed with that. We kept our flat roofs. Could you continue? So I'm not sure what year this is, I know it's before you, but the C unit burned to the ground. And it was rebuilt, and you can see it has 2 stories and the half story that we're proposing for our D unit. So what we are talking about is something very similar to what the C unit has already done, which is adjacent. So basically, the design is to fit in. We follow all the requirements for the NR zoning, except for the setback, which is something that we cannot comply with because of the nature of the type of construction that we have here. Next. So this is what we're proposing. This is the ocean side. So these are the original. You can see the 2-story, and then we would be doing this what we call a half story, and then the other side is the parking lot side. So if you can see that what we're proposing is very similar to, if you could go back to the slide before, it's very similar to what they've already done at the C unit. I did try to do through the Sunshine Act to try to get more information about how this, because I assumed that when this was built, that they would have had to, I know this is the zoning change for this area, and the zoning before this had allowed 3 contiguous like townhomes. But there are 8 here. So they must have had some sort, I could not, again, we couldn't find that information because maybe it was just too long ago. But anyway, I just bring that up as an afterthought. So really, I just wanted to, at least to hear from, I'm an owner and these folks are owners as well. Something from at least my heartfelt feeling for this property. Okay.
Thank you.
Glenn is going to now go into all the nitty-gritty stuff.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
You mentioned that I also asked Dawn if she knew the history of how the C unit was able to rebuild and come up with that site, and she wasn't here at the time, of course, and didn't have files on it either. So we're not really sure how that one was able to build without going through a variance. Maybe it did go through a variance process, but we just don't know the.
When was
history.
that fire?
I say 94.
Yeah, so it was after the town was
I wasn't
created.
here, but I believe that's correct.
So it's possible that since that was an act of God, that they were permitted to rebuild in their former non-compliant standard, as opposed to penalizing them and making them come into compliance as a result of being struck by lightning or whatever that would have been.
Right. So what the attorney is suggesting is that if we're not successful tonight. No.
Are being recorded, Glenn.
Right, so back to the script. So Kate, if you go to the next slide, please. So thank you, Claudia, for your that's a good setup. I want to go through the agenda of what I want to talk about a little bit now. First, give you a little more orientation to C-Strand as a community itself. Then we'll talk about the variance request. And as you all know, it's my burden to persuade you that we satisfy the exceptional practical difficulty standard. So we'll move into that, and then we'll conclude. I promise I won't keep you that long. Next one, Kate, if you would, please. So this is the C-Strand community. As Claudia said, there's four buildings in it. Building A, Building B, C, and D. We're interested in Unit D, and you get a good picture here of how the community has developed over the years, and how Unit D, Building D, really seems to be the one that's lagging behind and is ready for a little bit of an upgrade. Next one, Kate, if you would. This is just looking at it from a different angle. This is Chesapeake Street that it's accessed from down below. You'll see later that the building sits almost 15 feet off of Chesapeake Street. We're in the NR zoning district. The setbacks there are 8 feet, but as I just mentioned, we're about 15 feet. I'll explain how that comes into play later. If you would, go to the next one. Another view, I think this one does a good job of kind of demonstrating the low profile of this building as compared to the other building and the buildings around it in the area. If you go down to Cullen Street, for example, you can kind of see them off in the distance. There's some 3-story buildings there, but this area of town has buildings that are at least this height. And I should mention that we're not here tonight seeking any sort of height variance. This project will comply with a 35-foot height limitation, so we don't need that variance. This is strictly a setback variance. If we go to the next slide. So our request is a variance from section 185-60B to permit a half-story addition within the 8-foot side yard setbacks. And if you look to the right of that screen, you'll see that we're about 14.95 feet off of Chesapeake Street. And I just said that there's an 8-foot setback. So how is it that we need a setback variance when we're only 14.95, when we're already 14.95 feet off the street? Claudia sort of demonstrate that, and we'll show it to you in just a minute here. So next slide, please. This is just looking at an aerial view, just showing again that we're almost 15 feet off of Chesapeake Street. So I call this sort of a technicality, why we need the variance, because if it was just a building and that was a full parcel, we wouldn't be here asking for a variance because we'd already be 15 feet off of the street. So the next slide will show what Claudia showed. This is the Sussex County tax map. And as you can see, each of the units has a separate parcel. So when you need an 8-foot setback, you need an 8-foot setback from your parcel boundaries, not from the street that happens to be 15 feet away. Anybody walking down the street would presume that this building is set back far enough if you didn't realize that each of these units have separate parcels. The units are about 16 feet wide. So an 8-foot side yard variance on each of the units would basically say you're consuming the entire unit. So I really see this as somewhat a technicality, but it's still our burden to persuade you that we're deserving of a variance. This next slide will just show the same thing from Google Maps, just showing again that they are chopped up into separate parcels. Next slide, please. So as you all know, and sometimes I bore you with this stuff, I'll try not to tonight. You know, it's our duty to satisfy the exceptional practical difficulty standard. The Delaware Supreme Court has said that such exceptional practical difficulty is present where the requested dimensional change is minimal, and the harm to the applicant if the variance is denied will be greater than the probable effect on the neighboring properties if the variance is granted. So it's somewhat of a balancing test. How bad is the harm to the applicant if you deny the variance versus how bad is the harm to the community, the other neighboring properties if you grant the variance? And that's sort of the way we move into these. The court has given us 4 factors to consider when you go through the exceptional practical difficulty standard. If you go to the next one, Kate. This is factor 1, the nature of the zone in which the property lies. The property is in the neighborhood residential zoning district where residential use is a permitted use, and this is a residential use. Now the NR zoning district only allows single-family detached dwellings, but this townhome structure, like the ones around it in the community and others in that part of the town, were they've existed since the 1960s, as Claudia said. So they've existed before the town was incorporated. They existed before zoning laws come into place. So this is an old construction that didn't keep up with zoning laws. So I think this first factor bodes in favor of granting the variance. Let's see the next slide. Factor 2, according to the Supreme Court, is the character of the immediate vicinity and the uses contained therein. Of the 4 townhome buildings in C Strand, Building D is the only one that is not expanded vertically. You saw that through the photographs. One of the existing buildings, of course, has this additional half-story that we're proposing. 2 of the other 2 buildings have converted their flat roofs to pitch roofs. So they've all gone vertical, consistent with the height limitation as we're proposing. But as to this factor, we are consistent with the other buildings in the community. We will not stand out as something that's not conforming to how the area is developed. Next factor, factor 3, is whether if the restriction upon the applicant's property were removed, Such removal would seriously affect such neighboring property and uses. I don't think we do. And the reason being predominantly is you've seen letters of support. I hope you have all those letters of support that were submitted from the neighbors generally supporting this project. The C-Strand Homeowners Association in 2018 voted to endorse the expansion, so the community itself does endorse it. It complies with the 35-foot height limitation, and there's no indication that it will hinder any sort of ocean views. In fact, a lot of the trees in the area are higher than this building will be when it's done. The current building, by the way, is just under 18 feet. So this will take it up about to the 35-foot height limitation, but it won't exceed it. And again, building D is 14.95 feet from Chesapeake Street. So, but for the fact that each of the units are on these separate parcels, there wouldn't be a need for a setback variance. So I keep looking at this project and saying, it feels like it complies because it's set so far off of Chesapeake. It's not going to violate the height limitation, but because of this technicality, I think we need to be here for variance. So this factor, I think, also votes in favor of granting the variance. Factor 4 is whether, if the restriction is not removed, the restriction would create hardship for the owner in relation to his efforts to make normal improvements in the character of that use of the property, which is a permitted use under the use provisions of the ordinance. So in this instance, if the variance is not granted, the owners will not be able to make normal improvements. And the proposed expansion is clearly what is a normal improvement, because we've seen a normal improvement just like this one in the building next to it, and vertical expansions by building A and B. So this is an expansion that's consistent with how the neighborhood has developed. So again, I think that factor also bodes in favor of granting the variance. So I promised you I would keep it short, and the next slide is sort of just concludes to say that, again, I feel like this is almost a technicality. There's a real purpose for us to be here for a variance, but this one, I compared to some of the other ones we've been through, this is one that's at least understandable for sure. I think the exceptional practical difficulty standard has been satisfied in this instance. We're a victim of circumstances, old construction, new zoning laws, and a setback that just simply can't be complied with based upon the way the parcels are chopped up. So thank you very much for being attentive, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions, anyone?
It might be more appropriate for Ms. Cueto to respond to this, but could there be some discussion on the record of what the intended use of this new space will be?
Sure. Come up to the mic.
It's just additional bedrooms, an additional bedroom and a bathroom, frankly, because it's a half story. So it's not like a full, it's not going to be the same size as the second. So we're going to be under the E. So literally it's just another, to tell you the truth, my sister and I, we each need a master bathroom, a bedroom and bathroom. I'm the oldest, but yeah. So
But
that was the idea that
you're
I would be.
increasing the livable
Yeah,
area.
yeah.
It's not just an ornamental.
Oh, no.
Right.
No. It's a half story so that we can have two master bedrooms.
And what are the square footages? Do you have any sense of what they are? I mean, I don't have to know exactly.
Oh, I don't know. I can see.
They're
what-
quite small, though, are they not?
Yeah, it's not, the property's only 16 feet wide. I mean, that's for the property. Yeah,
1,200 total, okay. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's sufficiently responsive.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. Thank you. Okay, we're going to open it up to discussion or to any other comments from the public. Anybody that's here would like to speak? I think you need to come to the microphone and be sworn in if you want to. Sorry, we have rules.
Then, all right.
Go ahead, Fred.
I just was noting that there's some others in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Ma'am, name and address, please.
Kathy Bishop, 25 Black Duck Reach in Rehoboth, and I own one of the units in Building B at C-Strand.
Ms. Bishop, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Proceed.
I only wanted to make a comment that as existing owner, we definitely support what it is that they're trying to do. Each building, Building C, was built after the fire, but both buildings A and B were allowed to go from the flat roof to having the peaked roof. Then with the peaked roof on building B, we were, I guess, two of us were kind of on the same track, but we're one of the units in there that was able, just a year and a half ago, to take that space, the existing space on the third floor, and then within the zoning laws and requirements, building requirements for Dewey Beach, we got the permit and were able to build up there, and only on a certain portion, and it gave us bathroom and a bedroom. But no objections there.
Thank you.
Very good. Any questions for her? Oh, okay.
Any other comments? Come up, sir. Time, we're in a hurry.
Name and address, please.
My name is Bob Belmont. I live in Wilmington, Delaware, 2311 North Grand Avenue. I'm sorry, that's where I used to live. 1702 North Park Drive in apartment 72.
Sir, do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony given in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I'm going to speak as a past president for 3 years and most recently a vice president. The whole community, my unit that I bought 20 years ago was like a motel office in a building, still had a flat roof. We talked about the storm, the tornado. It left that unit alone. The owner at the time had 4 boys in college. He couldn't afford it, so I came in, and the first thing we did was conform with the pitched roof, and threw a party for me because it literally was an eyesore the way it was. So if you go back to the maps, this is going to be a value added for the Sea Strand community. I don't see it any other way than a value added for Dewey Beach as well. It's going to make some folks happy, and they're going to come into the 22nd century or whatever, finally. So I'm all in support of it. I have not heard anybody object to this whatsoever. So I appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Denise Karras, and I live at 25 Black Oak Reach and also am an owner in Sea Street.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
I
the truth?
do. I wanted to express my opinion of, I'm in favor of this change, and mostly because I'm a realtor in this area, and I feel like it would be restrictive to that building if they weren't allowed to expand. When everyone in that community is paying the same amount of lot rent, as you know, those properties are on a lot rent, which increases exponentially, and currently is $20,000 and a year, and it does not seem fair that that building should be restricted, especially for resale value. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything here in the room? I'll get to the online in a minute, but anyone else in the room want to say anything?
We did, she left the waiting. So no one else.
No one else is.
In waiting.
Okay. Dawn, do you want to weigh in on this?
Good evening, everyone. When Claudia came to present to us her plans for the upgrade of this townhouse unit, it was lovely. And so just due to the issue of the setbacks and so forth, and the changes with this non-conforming building, we needed to have her and Glenn to present this to you folks. As it stands, I know of no objection from the town that this should be held up.
Okay, thank you, Dawn.
Mhm.
And I will just say for the record that we got approximately 8 or 9 letters in support of this project. No comments or letters opposed to this. And as Glenn pointed out, I also have the minutes from the meeting where the homeowners association basically approved this plan going forward. So just so that's on the record. If there are no other comments, then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And so we're going to, the board members here can discuss their thoughts about this. Rick?
Nothing really to discuss.
Okay.
Just on the addition of the bathroom, I'd say yes.
Yeah.
16 children.
Oh, yeah. Any
No,
thoughts? Okay. I kind of am in the mindset of Glenn, where I feel like this is just kind of a technicality, given the structure of the townhomes. I live in a townhome on New Orleans Street, so I know the feeling. Those were built in the 80s, though, not the 60s. So I am going to just go through the quick check factors, just so that they're on the record from the board, and then I can invite anyone to make a motion in one way or the other. As far as the nature of the zone where the property lies, as Glenn pointed out, it is NR zoning. That doesn't really, I mean, and it's in a similar situation to the rest of the surrounding properties. The character, and I'm sorry, I'm getting over a sinus infection and I sound terrible. The character of the immediate vicinity and the uses contained therein, this also goes to the fact that it is one of 4 buildings in the community. It would definitely make the building conform more with what's going on with the rest of the buildings in the community, which I think is an advantage. And I actually thought about the resale value was one of the things that was going through my mind as we were going through the presentation. Whether the restrictions upon the applicant's property were removed, such removal would seriously affect such neighboring property. Again, obviously, it's not going to affect the neighboring property. If anything, it's going to enhance the neighboring properties, given the fact that the other buildings have already done similar things to what this is being proposed. And then finally, if the restriction is not removed, the restriction would create a hardship for the owner to make normal improvements. Obviously, this would be a hardship for the owners particularly in Building D. It seems like, in my opinion, they have a right to basically look like everybody else in the neighborhood. And I think not allowing this variance would definitely make a hardship to the owners of Building D. So that is my analysis. Any other board members have anything to add or disagree with that analysis?
I think it's a good
I think it's a
analysis.
good analysis.
Okay.
It's a good
Does
analysis.
anyone want to make a motion based on that analysis?
I'll make a motion based on that analysis.
Okay, so you're in
In
favor
favor.
of the variance, okay?
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Third.
Any further discussion? Okay. Vote based on, all in,
So
oh,
we're
sorry.
going to vote individually?
Yes.
And just a reference?
Yes,
the-
to, and
The
you can,
basis for your vote.
you can just say that based on what's already been said.
You can say that?
Yes.
I can do that.
So I'm going to call a vote. I'm going to start with you, Rick.
I approve the variance based on the
Analysis.
analysis presented.
That's the
Thanks.
I'm helping.
Dave.
I approve it also based on the analysis that you went through, and also for the extra bathroom.
Yeah.
I approved it also because of the analysis.
Okay, and I am also in favor based on what I said. So we are unanimous, the variance is approved. Yes.
Thank you, Dawn.
Dawn. Thanks, Dawn.
Congratulations.
I just.
Good luck.
Based on that, we're gonna,
It'll definitely improve, it'll definitely improve the value. of the
we just have to
properties
officially
overall.
adjourn, you guys. So,
Right, we have to.
motion,
Motion to
Motion to adjourn,
adjourn.
second.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
we are adjourned. Thanks.